Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to cilinixfxcapital. Hope you're all doing great. Hope you're having a great week so far, and welcome to this new video here on Tellor or TRB. Wanted to do a full update here. We'll talk about well, the technicals mostly, but there's a lot that goes on with the technicals for TRB. Rallied a huge amount, of course, last week. And since then, the volume has remained relatively high, so it has remained on my watch list at this point of time. Wow, Dago crashed. Wow, that is very interesting. 40%. Interesting story, but it's something different. But no, Tellor, the volume has remained incredibly high after that first move, which is usually a signal that we can at least, or at least that we should at least take into account the possibility of another move up, right? And so far, we got a good bounce from support here. The main support level was around $40. I mean, if you watch my video somewhere, I think last week, we also spoke about that area as being a very interesting area to potentially jump into TRB again. So if you watched that video, congratulations. It was a great area to get back in. But so far, you can see we got a bounce from that, and we're capped at that resistance level at 52.5, which you can see historically is quite respected. And that is also the main level we're waiting for to break right now. However, given the volume, I think we have a realistic chance to break above that, all right? And that's also why I wanted to make this video, because that means that I think we can at least rally back up to the previous level we hit right here, around $60, but potentially rally higher as well. I mean, for those of you who know TRB, for those of you who know Tellor, you know how crazy of a coin this can be sometimes, right? But okay, so one of the things that I do not necessarily like is the funding rate. The funding rate, as you can see right here, in the last 2 weeks has been relatively normal. We've had a bit of a decrease in funding here and there, but ultimately it's not been bad, or at least it's not been very negative, which is normally something you do see with TRB, and that obviously drives, or at least that creates incentives to, you know, to buy TRB or to long TRB. So that we do not have. And then something else that I think you need to know, and that I think you know, in this case also helps, is to know that TRB historically, or at least over the last 2 weeks, has mostly pumped during the Asian session, right? So therefore, you know, on the very short term, over the course of today, do I expect us to break above, you know, let's say $53? Let's make it a little bit easier for ourselves. Do I expect that to break? No, not necessarily. And I think in general, look, when I make these predictions, I obviously have to give you a prediction based on what I see. And if I would have to do that right now for TRB, I would say I do actually think, mostly given the volume and what I know from TRB, but also the reaction to support, I would say it's most likely we are going to pump again. However, does that mean that you should buy TRB? No, right? There is no incentive to buy before resistance, because the funding rates are not negative, right? So you will not be paid. The funding rates might even be slightly positive here and there, so that you actually have to pay to keep your positions open. And right now we're at resistance, right? So do I think we can break above $53, $54? Will I try to get a buy-in if we do? Yes, but at this point in time, we haven't yet, right? So even though we do have these indications that we can break out, and that's also why I'm telling you, I think that's most likely. Ultimately, if you want to make that actionable for yourself, if you want to take a trade on TRB, which, by the way, due to TRB being extremely manipulated, is something I would only recommend for the more experienced trader, you have to wait for the confirmation. You have to wait for the breakout. All right, so at this point of time, do I think it's most likely we are going to break out? Yes, but short term, I'd say it's actually a little bit more likely to pull back. Maybe after the 12-hour time frame close, feel that imbalance it's going to leave, and then afterwards breakouts. But I'll keep you updated on that if you're interested in that. But for now, I think that's what you need to know. So thank you for watching. Take care and bye.